consider the snake. What's the very first image that pops into your head? Is it the cunning tempter from the Garden of Eden? Or perhaps the symbol of wisdom and healing, coiled around the medical staff? How is it possible that the exact same creature has historically embodied both absolute evil and supreme wisdom? This isn't just a coincidence. This is one of the greatest paradoxes in world religion and mythology. In this video, we're going to unravel this paradox. We will explore why, in most cultures, the snake is either the devil or a god, and almost never anything in between. Get ready, because the answer won't just unlock the secrets of ancient symbols, it will reveal something crucial about ourselves. Which side do you think you're on, good or evil? What if I told you the snake represents both? Before we dive into the myths and legends, let's look at the snake itself as a biological entity. After all, its natural characteristics became the canvas upon which humanity painted its deepest fears and greatest hopes. The snake is a living paradox. Its venom is a lethal weapon, capable of stopping a heart instantly. Yet, that very same venom, when used in microdoses, forms the basis for powerful, life-saving medicines. It is a cold-blooded, silent and secretive creature whose presence is always sudden, but it also sheds its skin, literally being reborn before our eyes. For ancient cultures, this act of perpetual renewal became a potent symbol of rebirth, immortality, and the cyclical nature of life. It lives on the earth, often beneath the earth, dwelling in burrows and crevices. This ties it to the chthonic realm, the underworld, connecting it to secrets, mysteries, and hidden powers. This inherent duality, death and life, poison and cure, the old and the new, is the crucial key that unlocks our understanding of its profound role in human culture. Let's start with the most obvious question, the one that seems superficial but is actually rooted in millions of years of evolution. Why are we so profoundly afraid of snakes? This fear isn't just a cultural construct or a mere phobia. It's deeply wired into our very biological programming. Try to visualize our distant ancestor cautiously traversing the tall savanna grass. To him, a snake wasn't just another creature. It was a sudden, silent, and utterly lethal threat, lurking beneath every bush. Their venom could kill within minutes, offering no time for reaction. Their incredible camouflage and their absolutely silent, almost supernatural movement made them the perfect ambush predators. In fact, many scientists now believe that primates, including humans, developed a specialized, high-speed neural network dedicated solely to the instantaneous detection of snakes. We are literally programmed to spot their characteristic winding forms faster than we process almost any other visual stimuli. This primal, instinctive horror, this ancient survival mechanism, is the fertile ground upon which our entire mythology grew. When early humans sought to explain the powerful forces of nature, they invariably assigned divine, or, more often, demonic status to the most dangerous elements, and the snake as the perfect embodiment of hidden, unpredictable, and lethal power became the prime candidate for the role of primordial evil. Naturally, the most iconic representation of the serpent as a symbol of evil is found in the book of Genesis. The story of Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden is a foundational myth for the entire Abrahamic tradition. Here, the serpent is far more than just an animal. It is explicitly described as more subtle than any beast of the field. It speaks, it reasons, it tempts. It asks Eve a provocative question, sowing doubt regarding God's words. It promises not death, but divine knowledge. You shall be as gods, knowing good and evil. In Christian theology, this serpent became firmly associated with Satan, the fallen angel who used the serpent's form to lead humanity into the fall. This image became so powerful that, for millennia to come, it cemented the serpent's reputation as a liar, a deceiver, and an enemy of mankind. The serpent here is a symbol of disobedience, pride, and temptation, a force that pulls humanity away from divine harmony towards suffering and mortality. This is the critical moment where the snake transforms from merely a dangerous animal into a metaphysical adversary, the very embodiment of universal evil. But let's pause for a moment and re-examine that biblical story, looking at it through a completely different lens. What exactly did the serpent do? Yes, he defied God. But what did he give humanity? Knowledge. He didn't just deceive them. He opened their eyes to the inherent duality of the world, the concepts of good and evil they were previously blind to. Essentially, he initiated the transition from an unconscious, almost animalistic existence in paradise to a conscious, fully human life, one defined by free will, choice, and responsibility. In this context, the serpent emerges not merely as a tempter, but as a catalyst, a classic trickster figure who shatters that static order and initiates the very timeline of human history. This inherent ambiguity, the gift of knowledge wrapped up in the trauma of exile, is the first hint of his profoundly dualistic nature, even within a seemingly unambiguous negative myth. Gnostic movements within early Christianity actually revered the serpent as a messenger of higher wisdom, who was attempting to free Adam and Eve from their confinement in the material world created by the tyrannical demiurge. So, even at the heart of the Abrahamic traditions, the serpent is far more complex than he seems. To truly understand the origins of the biblical serpent, we must look much further back in history, to Mesopotamia, the very cradle of civilization. Long before the Bible was written, snakes played an important, often wise role in the myths of Sumer and Akkad. For instance, one of the principal gods of the Sumerian pantheon, Enki, the deity of wisdom, fresh water, and magic, was frequently associated with serpents. He was a benevolent deity toward humanity, often likened to Prometheus, who bestowed upon them knowledge and practical skills. This profound link between wisdom and the serpent is no accident. However, Mesopotamian myths also reveal a different, yet strangely familiar, motif. In the famous epic of Gilgamesh, the greatest literary work of the ancient Near East, the hero Gilgamesh eventually finds the flower of eternal youth at the bottom of the ocean after his long journey. But while he rests on the shore, a snake slithers up to the plant, devours it, sheds its skin, and crawls away, instantly rejuvenated. Here, the serpent is a thief, robbing mankind of immortality. This narrative, where the serpent deprives humanity of eternal life, bears a striking resemblance to the story in the Garden of Eden. For this reason, many scholars view it as a direct precursor to the biblical myth. Let us now transport ourselves to the Nile Valley, to ancient Egypt, where snake symbolism reaches a level of incredible complexity and duality. We begin with the positive aspect. Just look at the crown of any pharaoh. Dominating it, you will see the uraeus, the iconic image of the cobra goddess, Wadjet. This was far more than mere decoration. The uraeus stood as the most powerful symbol of divine authority, legitimacy, and fierce protection. It was believed that the cobra used its fiery breath to defend the pharaoh against all enemies, both seen and unseen. It was the very eye of the god Ra, his formidable and terrifying guardian. Thus, at the very heart of Egyptian statecraft and religious ideology, the serpent was emphatically not a symbol of evil. Instead, it represented the highest cosmic order, legal authority, and divine patronage. It did not tempt or deceive. Quite the opposite. It fiercely guarded truth and justice. This offers a potent example of how the exact same reptile can be viewed in drastically different ways depending entirely on cultural context. For the Egyptians, the cobra, poised in its striking, protective stance, was the embodiment of national strength and absolute sovereignty. Yet ancient Egypt also harboured an image that was its complete opposite. Every night, as the sun god Ra sailed his barge through the underworld, he was ambushed by a colossal enemy, the giant serpent Apep. Apep was the embodiment of darkness, chaos, and non-existence itself. His sole objective was to devour the sun and plunge creation into eternal night. In essence, all of Egyptian mythology revolved around this daily cosmic battle between order, embodied by Ra, and chaos, embodied by Apep. Each morning, the rising of the sun signalled that Ra and his defenders had once again triumphed. The Egyptians performed special rituals to assist their god in this perpetual struggle. Thus, within the same culture, we encounter two truly polarized images of the serpent, the uraeus called on the pharaoh's crown, representing the divine protector of order, versus Apep, lurking in the depths of the underworld, the demonic manifestation of chaos. This duality demonstrates that the Egyptians viewed the serpent not merely as good or evil, but as a fundamental, potent, primordial force capable of being channeled toward either creation or destruction. Let's shift our focus from Egypt to ancient Greece, where the snake solidified its role not just as a symbol of wisdom, but crucially as a symbol of healing. You've all seen this iconic image, a staff wrapped by a serpent. This is the rod of Asclepius, the ancient Greek god of medicine. To this day, this emblem remains the international symbol of healthcare. Why the snake specifically? First off, as we mentioned earlier, its ability to shed its skin was associated with rejuvenation and rebirth. Secondly, its venom, which could kill, was used in small doses as medicine. This symbolized the fine line between life and death that the physician must navigate. And thirdly, because snakes live underground, they were believed to possess secret knowledge of healing herbs and the powers of nature. In the temples dedicated to Asclepius, known as Asclepia, which served as history's first hospitals, non-venomous snakes were allowed to roam freely. Patients would sleep on the floors, believing that if a snake touched them in their sleep, it would bring about a cure. Here, there is no hint of evil or temptation. The snake was a sacred animal, the assistant of the healing god, the carrier of vital force, and the custodian of sacred knowledge. But healing is only one facet of the wise Greek serpent. The other, equally crucial aspect, is linked to prophecy and secret knowledge. The most famous oracle in the ancient world was located at Delphi. This site originally belonged to Gaia, the earth goddess, and was guarded by the massive serpent Python. Python was a chthonic entity, the embodiment of ancient, earthly wisdom. When the god, Apollo, the deity of light, harmony and reason, arrived at Delphi, he slew Python and established his own temple on the spot. Yet the serpent's wisdom did not vanish. The priestess and prophetess, known as the Pythia, would sit on a tripod over a fissure. Legend says that from this crack arose the vapours emanating from Python's decaying body. By inhaling these fumes, she entered a trance and delivered her famous prophecies. Thus, even in death, the serpent remained a source of profound hidden knowledge. This tale symbolises the triumph of the new Olympian, solar order over the old chthonic, earthly magic. Crucially, however, the new order did not destroy the ancient wisdom. Instead, it absorbed it and put it to its own use. Here, the serpent represents the primordial intuitive wisdom of the earth itself. Now, following the Greeks, let's turn our attention to the Romans. In Roman culture, the snake often held positive associations, particularly within the domestic or everyday sphere. The Romans had a concept known as the genius loci, or the spirit of the place. This was essentially the guardian spirit of a specific location, home, or family. Crucially, this spirit was very often depicted in the form of a snake. In Pompeii and Herculaneum, we still see many preserved frescoes of household shrines, known as lararia. These frequently feature one or two snakes crawling toward the offerings placed there. These snakes were not perceived as malicious or dangerous. On the contrary, they were symbols of fertility, prosperity, and domestic protection. They were benevolent house guardians, protecting the family from misfortune. This highlights how deeply embedded the snake was in the ancient consciousness, associating it with the earth, ancestors, and vital life force. For a Roman, seeing a snake inside the home was considered a truly good omen, predicting fortune and luck. What a striking difference this presents when compared to the serpent portrayed as the enemy of mankind in the Garden of Eden. Now let's turn our attention to one of the most powerful and universal serpent symbols, one that spans vastly different cultures, from ancient Egypt and Greece all the way to India and Scandinavia. This is the Ouroboros, the legendary serpent biting its own tail. This image is much more than a simple drawing. It's an entire philosophical concept. The Ouroboros represents eternity. infinity, and the fundamental cyclical nature of existence. Just as a snake sheds its skin to achieve renewal, the universe itself is perpetually reborn through cycles of creation and destruction. The end holds the beginning, and the beginning resides within the end. This symbol held particular importance for alchemists, who viewed it as a perfect depiction of the unity of matter, the circularity of processes, and the great work, the transmutation of the base into the sublime. Within Gnosticism, the Ouroboros could simultaneously symbolize the closed loop of the material world, a prison we must escape, and the eternal, self-sustaining nature of the divine. It is a profoundly metaphysical symbol, one that elevates the serpent from a mere creature to a fundamental cosmic principle. In this context, the snake is the universe itself, eternally devouring and perpetually regenerating. Let us now travel eastward to India, where the cult of the serpent reached its zenith. In Hinduism and Buddhism, there is an entire class of mythical beings known as the Nagas. Nagas are semi-divine, powerful and wise serpent beings, or sometimes serpent people who reside in opulent underwater or subterranean palaces. They are considered guardians of treasures, both material and spiritual. They command the element of water, rivers, lakes and rains, and are thus strongly associated with fertility. Nagas can be benevolent towards humans, but they are also dangerous if provoked or angered. The great god Vishnu reclines upon the coils of the colossal, thousand-headed serpent Shesha, who symbolizes eternity, and in Buddhist legend, the Naga king named Muchalinda famously sheltered the meditating Buddha from a severe storm using his massive hood. Even today, countless temples across South and Southeast Asia are dedicated to the Nagas. Here, the serpent is more than just a symbol. It is a respected and often revered deity, a custodian of sacred knowledge and a protector of the righteous. There is absolutely no concept of inherent or intrinsic evil associated with them here. However, Indian tradition offers an even deeper and more esoteric understanding of the snake, the concept of Kundalini. In the practices of yoga and tantra, this potent spiritual energy is said to reside dormant at the base of the spine in every human being. Symbolically, it is depicted as a snake coiled 3.5 times. This is where it gets its name, Kundalini, which in Sanskrit means the coiled one. The primary goal of many spiritual practices is simply to awaken this slumbering serpent. Once awakened, Kundalini begins its powerful ascent up the central energy channel, or Sushumna, along the spine, passing through the 7 main energy centers, known as chakras. When it reaches the highest chakra at the crown of the head, the individual attains a state of enlightenment, or samadhi, a complete union with divine consciousness. In this context, the snake is not an external force. Rather, it represents humanity's most profound, innermost, and powerful energy. It is the very potential for spiritual evolution, the divine spark hidden within every single one of us. It is difficult to imagine a more positive or profound depiction of the serpent. Now let's cross the ocean and journey to pre-Columbian America. Among the Maya and Aztec civilizations, one of the supreme deities was Quetzalcoatl, whose name translates literally to the feathered serpent. This figure represents a brilliant fusion of 2 inherent opposites. The serpent symbolizes the earth, matter, water, and grounded, earthly wisdom. Conversely, the bird, specifically the sacred Quetzal with its vibrant plumage, symbolizes the sky, spirit, wind, and celestial knowledge. Quetzalcoatl, therefore, perfectly synthesizes heaven and earth, uniting both spirit and matter. He was a primary creator deity, credited in legend with shaping humanity itself. He was also revered as a cultural hero, having gifted civilization with writing, the calendar, agriculture, and essential crafts. He was counted among the most revered and benevolent figures in the entire pantheon. The cult of the feathered serpent was widespread across Mesoamerica, persisting for millennia. Once again, we see how the serpent, particularly when paired with a celestial symbol, comes to embody supreme wisdom, creative power, and the fundamental harmony of the universe. Let's leave the scorching south behind and journey now to the harsh north, the realm of the Vikings. In Norse mythology, we encounter one of the most terrifying serpentine figures imaginable, Jörmungandr, the world serpent. He was one of the three monstrous offspring of the trickster god, Loki. When he was born, Odin cast him into the world ocean. Jörmungandr, however, grew to such immense size that he was able to completely encircle the human world, Midgard, and clamp down on his own tail. This is incidentally another variation of the Ouroboros symbol. But unlike that philosophical symbol of infinity, Jörmungandr is an active, profoundly hostile force. He is the sworn, eternal enemy of the thunder god, Thor. Their epic encounters are central to the Norse narratives. Prophecy foretells that during Ragnarök, the twilight of the gods, Thor and Jörmungandr are destined to slay one another. Here, the serpent embodies primordial chaos, a natural, elemental force inherently hostile to both human and divine order. He doesn't tempt or offer forbidden knowledge. He simply exists for the sake of destruction. He is the pure, unrestrained, and utterly destructive power of the world ocean made manifest. Finally, let's take a look at the oldest continent, Australia, home to Aboriginal mythology that stretches back tens of thousands of years. Central to these Dreamtime myths is the figure of the rainbow serpent. This powerful creator deity is believed to sleep beneath the earth. When it awakens, it slithers to the surface, and its movements carve out the landscape, forming mountains, shaping valleys, and tracing the paths of rivers. The rainbow serpent is intimately linked with water, rain, rivers, and springs, and thus represents life and fertility. It embodies a duality. It can be generous and life-giving, or terrifying and destructive. If the sacred laws are broken, the serpent can unleash catastrophic floods or crippling droughts. It is frequently depicted in ancient rock art, and its worship remains one of the oldest and most enduring belief systems in human history. This image once again reveals that fundamental duality, the snake as the source of life, shaping the land and bestowing water, and simultaneously as a formidable force of nature capable of devastating destruction. This further proves that for ancient peoples, the serpent embodied the very essence of nature, powerful, life-giving, and mortally dangerous all at once. So we've examined a variety of examples. Now let's try to tie everything together and explore why the snake is so frequently associated with wisdom, healing, and arcane knowledge. The primary reason lies in its intrinsic, unbreakable connection to the earth itself. Snakes inhabit burrows, caves, and rocky fissures. They literally emerge from the very depths of the ground. But what did the earth mean to ancient peoples? It was far more than mere soil. It was the Great Mother, the source of life and fertility. Crucially, it was also the underworld, the realm of the dead, the resting place of ancestral spirits. Thus, a creature capable of accessing this hidden domain, one that can effortlessly emerge from and disappear back into the earth, is automatically imbued with a connection to these sacred forces. It was believed that snakes possess knowledge of secrets hidden deep within the earth, the mysteries of birth and death, the locations of medicinal plants, and even buried treasures. They served as messengers for the chthonic, or earthly deities, the primordial gods who reigned long before the rise of the bright, celestial Olympian pantheon. This ancient, intuitive, earthbound wisdom ultimately became one of the snake's most enduring attributes. The snake's unique ability to shed its skin is the second crucial element in its positive symbolism. Try to imagine the sheer astonishment of early humans. They watched a snake, once dull and aged, literally crawl out of its former self, leaving the husk behind, and emerge completely new, vibrant, and gleaming. This wasn't merely molting. It was a visible, undeniable miracle of rebirth. No other creature demonstrates the process of renewal so vividly. This single act became the perfect, profound metaphor for numerous critical concepts. For healing, it represents shedding illness. For rejuvenation and eternal youth, it symbolizes casting off old age. For immortality, it is the victory over death. And for spiritual transformation, it signifies discarding the old self and giving birth to a new, enlightened consciousness. This incredible natural phenomenon cemented the snake as the living symbol of the eternal cycle, life, death, and rebirth. This is precisely why it coils around the staff of the god of medicine and bites its own tail in the eternal sign of the Ouroboros. Now let's turn our attention to the darker side. Why is the snake just as frequently a symbol of evil, chaos, and primordial terror? Here, as with its association with wisdom, the answer lies in its very nature. First, there is the deadly venom. The power to kill with a single strike is a terrifying, almost magical force. Second is its unsettling, almost otherworldly appearance and movement. Lacking limbs, it slithers across the ground, setting it apart from virtually every familiar creature. It has cold skin and a perpetually unblinking, hypnotic gaze, locked that way by fused, transparent eyelids. All these traits make the snake seem fundamentally other, alien, and incomprehensible to the human observer. It embodies wild, untamed nature, a force inherently hostile to human civilization. It hides, striking suddenly and without warning. This unpredictability and hidden danger make it the perfect metaphor for deceit, treachery, and cunning. Ultimately, the snake personifies everything humans cannot control, both in the natural world around them and within their own volatile minds. We can also point to another crucial historical and cultural factor explaining why the snake became demonized, especially within the Western tradition. This is linked to the profound transition from polytheism to monotheism. As we've seen, many ancient pagan religions worship deities of the earth, fertility, and nature, and the snake was often the central symbol of these gods. However, when these ancient faiths were replaced by new, monotheistic religions, such as Judaism and later Christianity and Islam, which centered on a singular, heavenly, transcendent creator god, an ideological struggle commenced. To establish their legitimacy, the new religion had to discredit the old gods, and the simplest way to do this was to declare them demons. Consequently, the sacred animals of the old cults were rendered unclean and devilish, the snake being one of the central symbols of pagan mother goddesses and chthonic deities, became the ideal target. It was transformed from a symbol of earthly wisdom into the ultimate symbol of satanic temptation. The triumph over the serpent thus became the defining symbol of the new faith's victory over old paganism. So, what is the situation today? Surprisingly, this ancient archetype has never truly vanished. The dual nature of the serpent continues to thrive in our culture. Just look around. On the one hand, the snake coiled around the staff, the globally recognized symbol of medicine and emergency services, promises us healing and the preservation of life. Meanwhile, prestigious fashion houses such as Gucci or Bulgari leverage the serpent as a motif of luxury, seduction, and personal transformation. On the other hand, in cinema and literature, snakes and their mythical counterparts, the dragons, are almost always cast as the formidable monsters the hero must defeat. We only need to recall the basilisk from Harry Potter, or Voldemort's serpentine followers, Orn. This symbol is so deeply embedded in our collective unconscious that we rely on it to express our most fundamental opposing ideas: the fear of death and the thirst for life, chaos versus order, sin and redemption, ignorance and wisdom. The serpent has been, and remains, the perfect mirror reflecting the deepest contradictions within the human soul. So why is the snake simultaneously a symbol of evil and wisdom? As we've explored, the answer is complex and multi-layered. Firstly, it's due to its inherent nature, the venom that kills and cures, and the shedding of its skin, a powerful symbol of perpetual renewal. Secondly, it's because of its deep connection to the earth. For some, the snake is a conduit to secret knowledge and life itself. For others, it represents a dark, unexplored, and dangerous underworld. And thirdly, it's a result of human history itself, where emerging religions frequently demonize the sacred symbols of older belief systems. Ultimately, the snake is far more than just an animal. It is a powerful archetype. It symbolizes that primal, instinctual, and often untamed force that exists both in nature and deep within every one of us. This force can be harnessed for creation, healing, and achieving true wisdom, much like the concept of Kundalini. Or if we succumb to it, it leads to chaos, destruction, and moral downfall. Perhaps this is precisely why its image continues to fascinate us. It serves as a constant reminder of our own dual nature. Thank you for watching this video all the way through. If you learned something new, please be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our future explorations. And now, a question for you. Which image of the snake, the wise one or the sinister one, do you find more compelling and why? Share your thoughts in the comments below.